Hello there, continuing. We must reflect on change because change is a catalyst for growth. But this change can feel unsettling. It might be a major life transition or a career change or a shift in your personal identity. Change can disrupt our sense of stability, but change itself is a constant in life. So this is why journaling is so important. Taking notes, writing things down, recording your life, dumping what's in your brain, emotographing, writing down your emotions. Confront your anxiety by writing. You're organizing your thoughts and organizing your understanding of your own anxiety. This structured reflection helps us learn from our experience and figure out our next step. Because that's where you're always at, is your next actionable step. You can plan, you can worry, you can strategize, but ultimately you can only take one step at a time. So the exercise is this. So what are you uncertain about? What are you grieving? What's different for you right now? All right, so the next is going to be mapping your emotion. Reflect on them. What makes me feel blank? And what is that emotion that I need to deal with right now? What is that signaling to me? And what can be my next step in moving forward? Okay, so you need to start by acknowledging change impacts your life. Change impacts all of our lives. And what parts of your life are still stable? Because there's always stable parts of life, and there's always parts of life that are going to change. So sometimes you need to close one chapter before you can open another. Sometimes you need to finish a step before you can effectively use your resources to move on to the next step. So what have you learned about yourself and others through this process of change? Navigating this change helps you grow and reflect on the transitions that challenge you. So you can journal to cultivate resilience. This is what you're going to do to reflect on those past challenges, what you've learned. And you can also reflect retrospectively. What did I do? What strategies worked for me to cope with this? What was I able to, who did I go to? Was it a friend? Was it a family member? Was it faith in a higher power? And then what was some way that you expressed strength that surprised you? In what way were you unexpectedly motivated? Very important question here. What would I do differently? And I ask people this question. If we can't find an answer, then we really haven't learned the lesson. What would I have done differently? Sometimes the answer is no. But if I faced the similar challenge, what would I do differently? So this can help reframe your past challenges as opportunities for growth, which will also enhance your overall resilience. Because there's always something to be learned. Take another perspective, reframe. So integrate this into your daily routine journal. I use Obsidian and sometimes Notes app, but I really like Obsidian, Obsidian. It's a purple looking stone. It's actually a volcanic rock. Amazing app. The amount of features and plugins that it have, it's open source. It uses rich text formatting. Not rich text form, yeah. Markdown language, excuse me. .md is the file extension for Markdown. It's a really simple, human-readable language that lets you format seamlessly while you're writing in it. Super cool. But even if you don't use that feature, it's super nice and it syncs across different devices. Okay, so you need to become attuned to your emotions, what you're feeling in that moment, in order to be able to effectively deal with them. So asking yourself questions, that's what this journaling process is, daily check-ins. What I used to do is I would have a daily number, I would have a daily mantra, I would have a daily mission. What's my one thing for today? What's one impact I want to have today? Or as Ben Franklin asked himself, what good, at the beginning of the day, he would say, what good can I do today? And at the end of the day, he would say, what good have I done today? And sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you expect it to. Whether you're dealing with grief or loss, failure, or fearing an upcoming change. Journaling always gives you a safe, judgment-free space to explore and accept and to heal ultimately. By consistently practicing this up to a certain point, you will have emotional resilience that empowers you to face life's challenges and accept things with strength and to turn your obstacles into opportunities. Even a crisis as an opportunity. Crisis, opportunity. Exercise. Practice reframing setbacks as a growth lens. Anytime you have a setback, you view that as a growth lens. So we move the focus from failure and frustration to understanding and development. And that's based off of the growth mindset by psychologist Carol Dweck. And it's the belief that our intelligence and abilities are not fixed, but they can be improved by learning, by hard work, by curiosity, by challenges, by a dedication to something, by a determination, deciding on a determination. I recommend self-authoring for that and understandmyself.com, self-authoring.com and understandmyself.com. So you can practice reframing. You can be the author of your own life. So ask yourself what went wrong and why it went wrong, or what went well and maybe how it could have gone better. What's there to learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? Write it down. Reframe the strengths. So repetitive. Is this really true? I think it was Voltaire or the philosopher said, history doesn't repeat itself, but people always do. I love that. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. But people repeat themselves. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're interested in what they're saying. Interest is the key. If you're having a conversation with someone, let's say in your personal life, and you're not engaged, that's your fault. You're not interrupting them. You're not seeking meaningful information enough to be engaged in the conversation. Now, I'm finding fault, right? So I'm framing this as it's your fault because you're the only one that has any ability to really change the conversation if it's been going in a direction that you don't like. That's your fault. Because they're not gonna, they don't know that you're not engaged really, unless they're extremely attuned to you, to your body language. And even if they are, people express differently. So what's next? You have to always ask yourself, what's your next big thing in life? What goal are you building momentum toward? What is the next big pièce de résistance, as the French say? What's in your way to get to the next thing for you? Gratitude. We know this is extremely powerful. Anything you can find to be grateful for in your life. I literally mean anything, any object, any place, any situation, any person, any feeling that you have, possession that you have, is all helping you to focus on. Because it's by that attitude of gratitude that you take your next step. And that you... Okay. What has the setback taught me? So there is a strength in letting go. We've talked about this. This is the shikata ga nai. It cannot be helped. It cannot be fixed. Accept what cannot be changed. Right? This is also a very stoic mindset. So attend to certain details that are interesting to you. That to me is one of the master keys. If something's not interesting to you, you don't need to attend to it. That is one of the core fallacies. I must attend to things that don't matter to me. This is a program that's going on in our brains. And it's not a recipe for a good life. If you've trained yourself to focus on things that don't matter to you, by definition, over time, your life will become meaningless. Right? So anything external to you, which is everything that we seek, everything that we look for, all the approval that we seek, everything we obtain, everything we work for, it's all external. And if you attach yourself to that money, power, fame, wealth, you are setting yourself up for suffering because you're overly attached to it. It's not that you don't want the things or you reject those things. It's just that you don't attach yourself too strongly to that. Maybe you've got an abundance of money. Maybe you don't have as much abundance of money as you used to have. Maybe you're just comfortable. None of that ultimately matters unless it's a motivating force for you to go somewhere. So a poignant lesson, he says, comes from a conversation with a Japanese gentleman who was a master of flower arranging, ikebana. He shared how each flower arrangement was about balance, not just in each individual flower, but in the empty spaces between them, in the shapes, the flow of the shapes, from the richness of knowing what it is that you have to hold on to and focus on and what to release. He said to arrange flowers is to understand when to let go. And that's the ikebana. So it's not just about objects, but it's also about your very experience. It's about people. It's about your expectations. Holding on to those expectations about people, experiences, and objects is what causes us to suffer. So in the Japanese culture, this is called motainai. And that's basically don't waste anything. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your resources. Don't waste your emotions. But know when something has outlived its perfect purpose and when it's time to let it go. Through this shikatagainai, we give ourselves respect and we give other things respect because we know what can't be helped, what can't be changed. And we create a space by knowing what cannot be changed, what is fixed. We can move toward what we're capable of changing. So this letting go, it's not passivity as people often think, or abandonment, or evasion, or avoidance. It's actually an active process of clearing out the old to make room for the new. So gardens have to be pruned. Dead leaves have to be cut off. Weeds have to be removed for healthy growth. We don't just let go of clutter in our lives, whether that's emotional or physical. We actively participate in removing the clutter, removing what is not necessary. And by removing what's not necessary, we can focus on what is. So this is a problem with us as we cling on to things, whether that's a physical item, a loss that we've experienced of a pet or person, outdated beliefs even. And it's what we're fearing without them. Somehow we fear that if we lose those things, we'll lose ourselves. But by holding on to everything, it weighs us down. So the more we cling, the less room we have to grow, to evolve, to adapt, to change. So author says he was holding on to a job that no longer served him. He was attached to the stability and security that that particular job offered, but he was deeply unhappy in that role. And he didn't want to let it go. So he began to lose all of his energy for the few things in his life that did matter. And finally, he made the decision to leave. And it was uncertain and painful, but it was liberating. And from the acceptance of that uncertainty and the pain, that draining chapter of his life was closed. And he was able to move forward and discover opportunities that better aligned with his true purpose. So his example is that in Japan, letting go is not weakness or failure, but it's actually a form of strength, letting things go. I can't tell you how many people hold on to things that don't serve them. One of my jobs is to point those out to them. So wisdom requires self-awareness. It requires emotional intelligence, and it knows when and how to hold on to something and when to let something go. So implicitly in Western culture, we tend to view attachment as good. something that we have to strive for, actually, to be attached, secure attached, as they call it. Whether that's to our own success, whether that's to what we possess, or to our relationships. I must hold on to this relationship, right? But in Japan, for example, it's about more balance, the middle, and understanding when enough is enough. So by embracing this wisdom to let go, we can understand the impact letting go has on emotional and psychological well-being. So past experiences, for example, we're holding on to those. Unresolved emotions that we're holding on to. Or even our sense of identity and purpose. Sometimes we have to change our identity and our purpose in life. So detachment isn't about loss, but it's about when you let go, you're able to open yourself to new things and new possibilities so that they can take root. So in a way, this is kind of like wabi-sabi, the beauty of simplicity, the beauty of brokenness. So it's Japanese minimalism. It doesn't mean that you're just totally indifferent to anything. You're apathetic. It means that you're actually present with what is essential. It's essentialism. It means that true strength is not from holding on to everything, but letting go when the time is right. And most importantly, that there's power in simplicity. There's power in clarity. Kindness is expressed through clarity. Freedom is in releasing what no longer serves us. So the deeper philosophy is about personal growth, relationships, and career, because that's what the deeper implication is of this philosophy. So minimalist spaces in Japan, for example, allow for clarity and simplicity and a life that creates us. We create a life that intentionally serves us and making space for what is actually mattering to us. So by letting go, this is a path to strength and transformation. So let go and understand this paradox that strength sometimes is in releasing control over certain things to gain true mastery over the other things that we truly can control. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.